We got a 2015 Hyundai Sonata. We're going to be doing the radio, 4 speakers, amp and sub. I'm going to show you what equipment the customer got and kind of just do a quick tutorial on how to do this. Anytime you do a vehicle, if you do this all the time, make sure just kind of do a walk around just to make sure you get all the kind of like these like little dents. Obviously there's going to be a lot of scratches, pretty normal for a used vehicle. Couple of scratches right here, kind of hard to see a little bit, damage right there, like little things like that. I'm sure the customer already knows, but dents right there, a lot of scratches, more dent. Like I said, it's pretty standard to have scratches. That's pretty common. So more scratches right here. It's easier to see it in the daytime than doing this at night. So yeah, just go ahead and do more inspection and I'll show you what equipment the customer brought, and you can just skip through this process if you don't want to see the inspection, but I had to do it anyway. Scratches more right here. Like I said, there's a lot of scratches, but let's go back and then show you what the equipment looks like. We're gonna go ahead and take everything out and then just kind of see what we're working with. I'm gonna put it aside for now. Customer got the CT Sound 8-inch package. Comes with the amp kit, and then the actual sub preloaded. And also got a Jensen radio. Speaker adapter, DS18 for the rear, components on the front, and other little miscellaneous harnesses. The pre-wired pack system, so the radio is pretty much ready to go. And this whole big box right here, if you're wondering, this is the dash kit. On these Sonatas, you have to replace the whole bezel. You have to transfer over the climate control vents. Like I said, you pretty much have to take the whole bezel off and then replace it with this one. So we're gonna go ahead and start doing the radio and then show you what that looks like. The first step to get the radio off, this whole bezel from here all the way here needs to come off. This part is the assembly that gets replaced. So I'm going to show you where all the bolts and screws are. This do need to come off first. These things tend to kind of a pain to remove. So I'm going to show you like an easier way, but I'm going to try it first just to see if it's going to work. Because I've done one of these before and I know these ones are kind of a pain to remove. So I'm going to go ahead and use both of my hands and then show you what I come up with. Just as a warning, this thing is going to be a pain to remove, and like I said before, this one also is going to be a pain to remove. What you have to do is pretty much I used a couple of combinations of pry tools. This one is going to be the pain in the butt one. So you're going to see all that clips, so you have to pry it towards you. That'll be one. And this one, what I did was I put one of these and wedge it in, and then use my metal one, which is a stronger one, and use that as a leverage. That way you don't damage the leather dash. And then slowly work your way. I did start from this corner and then slowly work my way down and slowly pried it with my finger. The top one is going to be a pain too, so you're going to have to pry it a little bit slowly with the plastic removal tool. So once you get that out, you can also pop this side one to access the screws. You're going to go ahead and pop the OBD2 port. There's going to be a cover right here to reveal the screw, and I believe that's the only thing that's holding this bottom dash. So let's go ahead and remove that. So now that I got this one obviously removed, this one's going to be the tricky one. No check engine light, but if you unplug it and accidentally turn it back on, it will throw a check engine light on for lost communication with the HVAC control. So if you can leave it plugged in or try not to start it, then that should be perfect. But if not, you can just put it aside like that and it should be fine. So as you can see, there's 2 screws right here, 2 screws right here, and then there's one in the bottom right here. Once you get that out, you can start prying it off. It's nothing but clips. Some of them may do get stuck in there, but that's okay. Now on this side right here, see how I like these little notches? It goes to these slots. So what you have to do is kind of pull it outward so it'll release from this. So don't just try to keep yanking on it and break things. So go ahead and unplug a couple of connectors, and then we are going to remove 2 more screws right here, and I believe that's the only screws there is to pop this whole cover off. This one do need to pop off, so just wedge a panel remover right here and just kind of lift it up, because this is part of the assembly. What I did was I started from the bottom right here, just kind of work my way little by little, because these clips are pretty hard. So you don't want to like start yanking on it. Now if you don't care about it, you can break it if you want, but I don't recommend you breaking anything. So it'll go all the way from here. Like I said, just kind of work your way corner by corner, and then the whole assembly would just literally come off as one piece. So that's what you have to remove just to get to the radio. Once you get that bezel out, there's going to be 2 screws right here, and it's going to be held by locking tabs on the edge all around. So just use a little flathead. Same goes to that. And then I'm not sure if the new kit comes with the clips, or we might have to reuse the stock one. If not, no biggie, I'll transfer everything over. But these vents do need to be transferred over, along with this steering wheel cover top part. Another tip, like I said, take those 2 screws off and then release the locking tab right here. And on this side, the top one you don't have to worry about because it will slide down. So once you get this thing up, the front up, just kind of slide the top one down. So it should just slide off. Just like that. The new dash kit does come with new clips, so we're going to go ahead and we don't have to transfer over the stock one. This is the part that holds the little leather for the top steering wheel cover. So we're going to go ahead and transfer that over as well. Here's the dash kit itself that holds the radio. Go ahead and flip it over and then start putting the clips to its locations, and then we'll move on to mounting the radio. To remove this piece right here, you can just break off the tabs. They're pretty easy to break. Just put a small flathead in between. That way it just kind of releases the locking washers. And then once you get that out, let's go ahead and pop that, because it does come with the new one. So we're going to go ahead and transfer this over. I already got the vents pretty much mounted and screwed back. So it comes with new screws, so it's going to go 4 screws right there. 4 screws. This one's pretty much ready. I'm going to go ahead and mount the radio to the dash kit. So that's what it should look like right there. The radio is only held by 4 screws, so go ahead and remove that. Make sure there's no CDs as well. And then just unhook all the connectors in the back. We've got the system plugged in, so you can see 3 plugs for the reverse camera. We do need to hook this up to the camera input of the radio itself. Now this one, the customer paid for Crutchfield to wire everything up, so as you can see, everything is pretty self-explanatory. The reverse, all that jazz is already wired up. I do need to find which one is the parking brake. That way, yeah, they can do other things with the unit. But this one we do need to run. There's going to be a long wire, which I already kind of put tape since I'm going to be running it. It's going to go to the OBD2 port. As you can see, white, red, and white, black, which are these 2 long ones. So that's going to go to the OBD2 port. Since I'm doing amp and sub, I'm going to go ahead and run the RCA and the remote wire along with this one. That way that'll be done and done. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and plug everything in and then see everything works. From the instruction, that white, red, and white, black from the pack system, you will need to hook it up to The top one is pin 14 and pin number 6. It'll also state right there. These are all numbered, so you can't really mess them up. Just kind of double check where you tap it onto. Like I said, I already have the RCA ready for the amp and sub, so that way we don't have to mess with that later on. We're gonna go ahead and test the radio. I already got the rear input camera. I'm gonna see which wire is the parking brake and then do some stuff with that. So I'm just kind of testing everything out. That OBD2 port does support the rear view camera, the OEM. That way it'll trigger it. As you can see, I'm doing the stock volume up. Next. And then when you put it on reverse, it'll switch over. So make sure you do have the rear camera input connected to the PAX camera output, and then that's pretty much all there is to it. So I finally got everything pretty much wired up. That was kind of a pain, all that wires in the back. I did run the USB for the CarPlay and the USB charging. You'll be able to see the little light that goes in right there, and it's gonna come out right there. So that takes care of that. Don't put any dash back in. I'm gonna do the speakers first and then do the amp and sub. That way I know everything is pretty much working before I put the dash panel back on. I'm gonna be running the mic on top of the instrument cluster trim. That way it's direct in front of the face. Best solution right there. So remember, do not unplug this. Go ahead and play with the radio a little bit, and then we'll move on to the speakers. For this step, the covers just pop off. Now this is where it gets interesting. I did try to use these little stubby ones, but I can't get any leverage trying to take it off. So you will need an angle driver right here. Kind of shoot a little bit of impact torque with it. Now when you do the back one right here, the impact torque is going to be way too close to the glass. You definitely don't want that thing to just flip around and then hit the glass. So put your finger in the middle. That way if it goes crazy and pops off the screw head, it'll hit your finger and not the glass and crack. So just a little tip, but I did already get it out. Once you get the baby tweeter out, just unplug it, and then we'll go ahead and prep the new tweeter component set and then mount it over. For the tweeter portion, the one that they gave is like a universal tweeter pod. Now this one I did have to drill a hole. You're gonna need a hole saw kit from Harbor Freight, one of these, and obviously just match up whichever one is gonna fit in there. I did have to manually trim a little bit. I'm gonna clean this up once I'm done, but these two holes are the one that mounts to the location. So it's kind of a weird situation, but like I said, it is universal, so I had to make it work. Pretty much got the tweeter mounted back. I already did the passenger side, used a little glue to make sure it doesn't move. I actually have ABS plastic glue as well, so I ended up using that, or you can just use a super glue. Don't really matter. So go ahead and test it before you pop the cover back on, and then we're going to be moving on to the mid-bass speakers. There's going to be a cover right there, also cover right there. It's these two. I believe that's the only thing that's holding together, and then you can pretty much pop the door panel. I'm pretty sure that's the only two. If there is more, I'll let you know. The clips are kind of hard to remove. As you can see, they are pretty strong. So I usually start from this side and then slowly work my way around. You don't really even have to unplug anything. As you can see, the speakers are mounted pretty high, so it's easily accessible. Go ahead and pop these off though, that way you don't forget, because that needs to go back to the door panel. These speakers take T20s to remove. It's a star bit, so gonna need one of these as well, which you can get from Harbor Freight. So go ahead and take that out. So this one's kind of an odd one. The speaker adapter works perfect, however there's no way to pretty much get this thing to plug in. So what I did was I drilled a hole underneath. That way the speaker wire would pass through and plug into the speaker itself. No problem. Got the front speaker mounted. As you can see, that hole underneath did help. So this one is pretty easy. I'm gonna go ahead and put everything back together and move on to the rear. For the rear, it's gonna be the same, with the exception of only, like I said, the same thing at 2. There's no triangle piece and the whole thing just pops off real easy. Then we're gonna pop in this DS18 mid-ranges, and then we'll move on to the other side. Almost forgot about this. Pop this little triangle piece off. So DS18s are kind of weird. They don't really have a cutout, so you have to use a slimmer screws, which are small head like these. You can't just use direct drive bigger heads like that, but you do have to pre-drill the hole since this screw is pretty long, so it's gonna hit this part right here on top of the speaker adapter. So just drive the drill bit a little bit, pre-drill it, and then screw it in. Pretty much done. Put the door panel back on, move on to the next one. So I already did all the speakers, the 2 fronts and then one of the rears. The customer accidentally ordered only one, so we're going to be waiting on to see if we can find one in town or order one online. It's the one for the rear door. But for now, I'm going to be running the amp wire. As you can see, this is where I have the RCA zip tied along here. That way it's not dangling or anything like that. Kind of just leave a little slack. This is where you're going to be putting your power wire right here. Just do a little slit. And then make sure you're always on the very bottom. Don't go too crazy. Try to make sure you don't cut any of the wires. So, and this one, just kind of feel around it once you poke this first hole. That way on the other side, make sure the wire are not either pointing down to where you can accidentally cut it, or that's gonna get kind of trimmed from the blade. So I already did all that. So I already got that ready, pretty much ran. We're gonna continue with everything else. So I had to go to a audio shop in town since the customer accidentally only ordered one set of speaker, which is one piece for the DS18. So we ended up getting some pairs of Memphis. So we're gonna take this out. Customer's gonna send it back. Luckily I didn't touch the other side yet, but I do have to take off the other DS18s. I should have checked from the get-go, so it's my fault kind of too for not checking, but that's the only way to fix it, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. I already got the DS18 removed. We got the Memphis in, so we can go ahead and put everything back and then do the passenger side. Go ahead and break off the little ears that go around it. Should be like 5. That way the speaker would fit perfect. Those I believe is for the 5 1/4 or maybe a 6 1/4, I believe. I'm not sure, but I ended up having to remove it. That way the 6 1/2 Memphis would fit. Got the passenger side done. So now we get to move on to the amp and sub. To continue the amp and sub, I took the cover off. This panel right here. Got the ground ready. This is where it's going to be grounded to right here. Obviously scuff up the paint. That way it'll be bare metal. I did separate the power and RCAs. I'm going to route this somewhere kind of high. I don't want all the excess of the RCAs to be down there. And I did route the wire. This is where the amp is going to be. So I already got the preliminary wiring kind of prepped right there. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that and then show you what it looks like once it's all done. Took me a while to run all these wires. Finally got everything wired up. We still need to do the ground real quick. I already have the speaker wire that's going to the sub kind of tucked in underneath, but so far everything is pretty much wired up. I'm gonna go ahead and trim the floor mat. That way it'll slide in and it looks like it's sitting on top, and you'd still be able to clean the floor mat if need be. To mount the fuse holder for the amp, I just used the top of it. It's perfectly fine to do that. Just use a small screw. That way it doesn't touch the fuses or wires or anything like that. And I did check already underneath, so it's a pretty short screw. For this one, go ahead and take the 12mm nut. Do not put it in here. It will put an extra load on this fuse. It'll pop it eventually. So you want it to be on the direct post right here. We're gonna go ahead and trim out this area right here because the ring terminal is gonna go this way. So this has to be trimmed out a little bit, this little ear, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I just used a Dremel with a cut-off blade and just cut off like a little opening right there. That way it'll still close, cover it up like nothing ever happened. I'm gonna go ahead and put the split loom, make it look nice, and then this part should be done. So I just added a zip tie just to kind of keep it elevated from this metal ECU, that way it doesn't get hot. But that should be more than fine. Everything's secured. I do need to zip tie that one and then put the radio back in and pretty much call the customer and let them know it's done. Now that I know everything is working, I already tested the Bluetooth mic. I did call my wife. Most of the time I check that. I check the amp and sub. I check all the fades for all the door speakers. Make sure left, right, rear, front, all the above are working properly. I made sure the car plays are working. So we can go ahead and put back the panel. Stick on the mic that's going to be right there. And then pretty much button everything up. So here is the dash panel that we had to carefully install back. As you can see, if you remember from the previous video, we transferred over the vents and installed the clips, all the above. So hopefully everything goes smooth, go back in normal, and we can pretty much mark this completed. I must say this Metro kit fits perfect. All the clips went in without an issue. Radio fits perfect right there. The only thing that's kind of thing you have to watch out for is scratching this matte finish. So don't lay it on its face or you will scratch it very easily. So we're gonna pop in a couple of bolts and screws. Make sure those guides are in place along with the top, and then screw everything together. So far everything is going good, so we're almost done. Here's the end result. I already got everything snapped back in. Everything looks pretty good. Got the mic sticked on to that corner right there. Got the bass knob already screwed in. All the panels put back together, double checked. Make sure nothing's loose. Then I'm gonna play it for a little bit, make sure nothing shuts off or anything like that. And then this job is pretty much completed. Here's also where I grounded it underneath the driver's seat. Just make sure you sand off the location. Neatly tucks away, never even know there's a ground there. Here's the 8-inch sub, carefully mounted right there. Overall, this thing sounds pretty damn good for what it is. So shout out to CT Sounds for creating such a good package, 8-inch. So go ahead and gonna keep double checking everything just to make sure all is good and call the customer. So hopefully you guys learned a little something. If you guys have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment underneath. Like I said, shout out to CT Sounds. Got so many damn stickers from them, but yeah, overall everything is pretty self-explanatory. So good luck on your replacement, and if you guys have any questions, I'll answer them for you. If not, hopefully you get everything going.